¿Por qué no hay negros en Yanga?
Sí hay, pero
Sí hay,
pocos.
pero ya se murieron casi la mayoría.
Ah, la mayoría.
La mayoría ya casi murió.
Welcome to Yanga, the first free town of all of the Americas. North America, South America. This is the first free town. This is Yanga. Welcome to Yanga, primer pueblo libre de esclavitud in America. Here it is. Welcome to Yanga. This is a very important and iconic place, not only for Mexico, but all of North America and all of South America. This is the town that is named after Gasper Yanga, a person born May 14th, 1545, in the country of Gabon to a royal family. He is captured and put into slavery by the Spanish here in Mexico, here in Veracruz. So it is in the 1570s that he and a group of other African slaves run away and establish their own maroon community. Again, a maroon community is a establishment, a community of runaway slaves, those that escape slavery, that run away from slavery and establish their own communities, usually in the mountains, as you have in Jamaica, as you have in Colombia, everywhere basically in the Americas. For more than 30 years, Yanga and the other runaway slaves come to this part of Veracruz and establish a community, and this is where they live and survive. It is here, for survival purposes, that they raided the caravans going from Veracruz to Mexico City, the port to the capital. So they were raiding the caravans and using those goods and food and whatever to survive. So this is at this moment in the early 1600s where the Spanish are getting fed up. So they decide to build an army and destroy this maroon colony. So not only were they raiding the caravans, but they were also plundering the nearby haciendas here. So here you have the Spanish in Mexico City, in Puebla, gathering troops to defeat these people. So Yanga and his group, they say, let's go to battle. And battle they did go to. So this area of Veracruz is in the mountains, and this is not a terrain that the Spanish was familiar with. And it was to the advantage of the people who did know the territory, which are these Maroons. So for many, many years. So the fighting began in 1609, and it would not end until 1618, and it would not end until the Spanish had enough, took too much damage, and decided to agree that the Maroons would be left alone, thus establishing the first free black town in all of the Americas. It is very interesting because 400 years ago, you have a town of all blacks. And today, hardly any black people live here, hardly any of his descendants or any of the descendants of the other runaway slaves. You basically have just mestizos, indigenous people that live here. So history changes. You know, people go from place to place. It's a long history of why there isn't much black people here. ¿Por qué no hay negros en Yanga?
Sí hay, pero
Sí hay,
pocos.
pero ya se murieron casi la mayoría.
Ah, la mayoría.
La mayoría ya casi murió.
¿Y qué pasó con hijos,
Se
nietos?
han quedado aquí muchos.
Es que hay poblados. Este es el centro, la cabecera municipal. Y hay poblados donde todavía se dedican todavía al cultivo de la caña.
En Mata Clara.
En Mataclara
Ahí
también.
hay muchos. Pero Mata Clara está, hay varios poblados, ¿cómo se llama? Atoyac.
Sí.
Hay varios poblados donde todavía hay afrodescendientes.
Yo tengo libros de toda la historia toda de él y te explican bien, Ahorita el que está de presidente municipal se llama Fernando Gordillo y él te explica bien y han estado viniendo mucha gente de Costas de Marfil, de muchos lugares porque están haciendo los libros y están viniendo para que conozcan el pueblo. Él te puede explicar muy bien cómo la historia.
Hay libros donde toda la historia. Sí, porque en internet no viene todo.
So this is a painting here. This is an illustration that might show like what's going on. So let's start here, right? So this is a painting that they have right in front of the statue, and you basically have the slave ship here, and it's coming from the west coast of Africa all the way to the port of Veracruz. And then you have the Catholic Church. You really cannot undermine and forget about their role in colonizing and enslaving all of these people. This is why Mexico is a majority Catholic country. This is why most of Central Latin America is Catholic, and they had a big role, a huge role in enslaving black people. So this is the Olmecs, by the way. The Olmecs are native to Veracruz. There is like a dispute if the Olmecs were actually people of black origin, but I will leave it to other people to discuss it. So you basically have it here, right? Like some of the work that the black people were doing. So this is the sugar cane right here. So this is sugar, and to this day, in 2023, this is what Veracruz is really known for, at least as part of Veracruz, is the sugarcane industry. So you basically have the blacks, same with Yanga, that came here to work in these sugarcane farms. So, okay, you can see they're working. You got white people being barbaric, or the Spanish being barbaric. So things are just going by. You got the slaves. You got the Spanish just doing their Spanish barbaric things. And you basically have the early 1600s when I can say the war erupts. So let me zoom out a little bit. Or the battle erupts. It's not really called a war. Some group wants peace, and the other group does not want peace for the other people. So this is the start. Actually, so now you're getting into the 1570s, where Nyanga and the other slaves are revolting, and this is where they go to this part of Veracruz, the mountains of Veracruz, what is now known as Yanga and the surrounding areas around Cordoba. So they're like, hey, I'm tired of this. I was a king. I was supposed to be a king. I'm not supposed to be doing this. Nope. So you basically have perhaps a moment where they're just working and, like living. And then there's the fighting starts in 1609. So from what I can understand to this is that this is where they're like raiding the caravans going from Veracruz to Mexico City. They're like, hey, we need things to survive. We ran away for slavery, and for more than 30 years, this is where they were at. So as this is going on, the raids are coming. They're like, nope, we need to really survive at all costs. And in 1609, the Spanish send a group of militias. And not only was it the military, but it was also militias, volunteers that tried to take down these people. But they definitely had a warrior spirit in them. So this is going, right? So you got the white man on the horse enslaving these black people. And then you got, Nyanga and his group now on the horse, basically saying, nope, we're ready to battle. So I guess you have a moment of peace. I don't know exactly where this fish is. I don't know if it's a river, but we're a few hundred kilometers away from the port or from the ocean. And this is, as time goes, they're like, hey, leave us alone. In 1618, this is the first free black town, and let us enjoy our culture and things like that. So the question becomes, where are the descendants of Nyanga? Where are the descendants of all of these runaway slaves? Where are the Maroons and their descendants? And I can say, especially in Nyanga, basically all of them are gone. About maybe 60 years ago, 80 years ago, there was a greater population. But the truth is that a lot of them have died off. The older generation have died off. As you have seen, like in Mata Clara, the bloodline is still there, but it is also basically dying off, and it's basically dead. A lot of the young people, they just look like regular mestizos, a typical Mexican appearance. And And it's really sad to see. So the lady that I spoke with was telling me that her great-grandfather was African, or was a Moreno or Negro, and she was saying that as the generations have went on, the people were mixing and mixing and mixing, and now you basically have a result of her. She's maybe, you know, half indigenous, half, or the other 3/4 could be a Spaniard or some type, and the bloodline now is just very, very, very weak. So if you do check her like DNA or something, it might be 2% or 3%, something like that. Because I'm sure her great-grandfather was not 100% black as well. And I've seen her son. Her son, as you've seen, like, he just looks like a typical Mexican. When I say Mexican or a typical Mexican, I don't mean to offend anyone. It's basically just to say, like, hey, this is the dominant Mexican look. I know indigenous people look different. I know there's people that look straight up European, but there's a typical mestizo, a mixed indigenous look, and her son, that's what he looked like. So maybe his DNA might be 1 or 2% African, and who knows if they're descendants of Nyanga himself. But I'm sure there's a lot of factors that went into why the population, that bloodline is not visible anymore. It's still there, but it's not visible. And it's just very unfortunate to see. But the good thing that in Mata Clara, you do see a little bit more, which is a few kilometers from here. And there is a big difference between the Costa Chica, Guerrero, Oaxaca, those states, and Veracruz. Even though Veracruz is the original in the first place that black people were brought to and they ran away and came, the bloodline isn't as strong because of miscegenation.